Welcome back to week 4 of Fit with Mitch. Send strength and conditioning coach Mitch Freeburn here. This week on Fit with Mitch, we're going to talk about using your warm-up to prime the nervous system and the musculoskeletal system to really emphasize your workout, so that way once you finish your warm-up, you're ready to jump right into your main block. I'll explain this more as we get into it. Let's get right into today's concept. On the board here, I have laid out just a simple program that's really easy for the viewer to digest. Now, when you think about the sport, you think about hockey, we always refer to an old saying called work from the scoreboard and work back. We can apply the same thing to a workout. The scoreboard being, here's our main block. So I have the example A, B, and then I just put one exercise for simplicity's sake of filming this episode. So for today, the goal of what we're gonna try and do is we're gonna try and prime our nervous system and musculoskeletal system for a single arm floor press. Now, where does that work? Let's work our way backwards. So this is our end goal. Let's go right back to the start. When we think about the movement of a floor press, we need to get into the position where the shoulders can fully come back, the hands can fall to the chest, allowing length along that pec, which then we can press and then create our contraction. So then where do we start with that? It starts with just a basic foam roll. We can foam roll the pec, we can foam roll the lat, we can stretch lat and pec. What we're trying to accomplish is we're trying to establish that ability of the tissue to lengthen, so that way when we get down to our main movement, the tissue can physically reach that length to give us a nice full range of motion and a nice clean press. Where do we go from here? We've lengthened our tissue. Now we want to mobilize it and find some ranges of motion. So thinking of that press, we're mainly working in the shoulder joint, some arguably upper spine, but mostly through that shoulder, mostly through that scap into the elbow and wrist. We're priming that with a shoulder car. We're trying to get that shoulder up, moving through its range of motion, rotating freely, so again, we can hit these end range positions. Same with the push-up plus. We're trying to mobilize and give range for that scapula to protract and retract as we push and pull that dumbbell up and down off the floor. From here, into our step 3, we now want to activate this range that we've just gained. So what does that mean? Basically, this will be a lower level strength exercise that we're trying to prime the supporting muscles around the pec that are going to help us stabilize, but aren't the prime movers for our floor press. Hitting that shoulder, we're going to work on an external rotation, try and fire the muscles in the back of the shoulder. Again, stability. Hitting serratus, that also known as that boxer's muscle, we're providing stability as that hand finds elevation and then falls back down to the hip. Then, just before we jump into our workout, we'll basically hit what some will call a warm-up set. So if you think of a push-up, basically all you're doing is you're in the opposite orientation, and then you're essentially dumbbell pressing 2 dumbbells, but only your body is the resistance, and your hand would be the point of contact with the ground. Then finally, we'll get down to our main mover. As we progress through this, we should be able to jump right into it. And that way, when we jump into our first set, our body is feeling primed, we're ready to work, and we don't have that lack of contraction, that feeling of soreness, or that inability to even get into the position that the exercise requires. Okay, so just as one final little clip to create a total picture of what we're trying to accomplish with this episode. For the purpose of this week, we discussed the exercise of a single arm dumbbell floor press and how we can really structure and tailor our warm-up to best prepare the body for that action. We started at the top working on tissue length and tissue quality with that soft tissue on the foam roller, the passive stretch to create that length and increase the quality of the overall muscle that you're trying to work. From there, with that new quality and tissue length that we found, we want to work through varying ranges of motion with those 2 mobility drills I showed you. From there, we then activated the smaller base muscles, which are going to complement the prime mover, in this case the pec, during that exercise. Once we've accomplished that, we then put it all together with a push-up, which is then used as a total primer to be at that last step and that last connecting feature. So when we get to our A block, we're ready to go, and we know we can execute that movement correctly, efficiently, and with the most output we can to match our common goal and what we're trying to support. Stay tuned next week to see what we have in store in week 5.